Hi there. So, so last week I was doing a demonstration for a class in Stutton about drawing portraits, and I was showing them the method I use, which is based on Andrew Loomis. I'm sure some of you know. Andrew Loomis was a really good illustrator, American illustrator, and he wrote some excellent books on drawing heads and how to construct the head. So I learnt those years ago, and they sort of, after a while, they become almost a bit like your handwriting. So normally I do them quite quickly, but I thought I would just do a slightly slower version and perhaps talk through it. Not really to do a great portrait, but just to show you a little bit about the construction method. So I thought I would have a go at this Van Gogh portrait, which I did last week. But just really show you again how I would apply the construction method. Okay. So first thing he starts with is a sphere. So actually when I started drawing and using this method, getting the hang of the sphere is itself quite a job. So you need to be able to conceive of it as a three-dimensional shape. Okay, so you look at the eyebrows. The eyebrows relate to the centre of the sphere. So in this case, it's about level. That's almost a flat line. Okay, so once you've got the middle of the sphere, then you find the centre line of the face. So in this case, it's about here. Again, you're trying to imagine this line coming round the sphere until the eyebrow line, and then at that point it just drops down like that. Okay, roughly giving you the base of the chin. So the Andrew Loomis method here, we would divide this. So we find our hairline, so in this portrait it's quite high. So this approximate dimension there, that's like 1, and then it should be something similar. So that measurement and then this measurement 2, and then basically the same again. That gives me a bit more chin. 3. So 1 forehead, 2 nose, cheeks, 3 chin. And I found that just a really useful way to think about the face. One of the things I see a lot of people do when they start drawing portraits is not really to give enough room to the chin and the mouth. So this sort of system helps to counteract that. So once we've got these divisions in, we can, now Andrew Loomis, he cuts off part of the head, so instead of having a complete sphere we have a more of a flat plane here. So this relates a bit to where the plane changes from the temple to the side of the head. I'm just putting those lines in just to imagine that as a flat plane. Okay, so top of the eyebrows would normally correspond to the top of the ear, but in this portrait, Van Gogh, the ear is a bit lower. So there's the ear, like that. Again, when I'm looking, I'm trying to correspond. How does one thing relate to another? How does this earlobe relate to the nose? It's constantly flicking your eye back and forth. And that gives me the ear. Then I can go back to the construction. So we've got our eyebrow. And then the eyes. So again, it's important to try and get the angle of the eyes. In this case, again, fairly straight. So he's about level with us. So just a simple line there. Now the tendency is almost always to make the eyes too big. That's what I found, because we find the eyes interesting. I'm going to put the nose in first. So, as some of you may have seen, I've been looking at Nathan Folks's book on charcoal drawing, and he has a really good point in there, which is whenever you learn these formulas like Loomis or the Riley method, which is another sort of system, you can end up, it becomes too formulaic and all your drawings will end up looking a bit like the same person. So you have to learn the formula, which is a bit like your mannequin head, and then be able to apply it more specifically to the face you're looking at. So you can't use it too slick, it's just a tool basically. So now we can put the eyes, so the eye there. So that's just a construction method using that little shape there, so I can draw the eyelids on top of that. So now we've got the cheekbone comes out, and then I can find the mouth. So I find with the mouth the most important thing is these points. 1 point and another point. That gives the angle of the mouth, and this relates to perspective. So this line, this line, this line, this line. So basically the face is in perspective, so you have to just be aware of that these lines aren't all going to be straight. As these lines come below our eye level, they'll start to point upwards. So there's our mouth. Okay, now Loomis, he has this divided into thirds between the bottom of the nose and the chin. So the chin in this case now is looking a bit too high. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to bring the chin down a bit. So let's just see what this looks like. See, that gives me the diagonal. So there we are. Now all these lines I do at this stage, although I'm working in pen, everything you do should be sort of provisional. None of these are set in stone, so everything remains fluid. So there's always the option of changing it and adapting it. That's why things like charcoal are so good, because they lend themselves to changing, rubbing out. Pen's a bit more, it's more, you've committed a bit more once it's down. So there's the moustache. Again, looking at where does this line correspond, this bit where the mouth stops, how does that correspond with the eye? So there might be more room there. And with these portraits, what I found is, you know, practice really, that's the key. You learn the formulas, which are useful, but then you just have to practice and practice. And occasionally you get something right, and that feels, you know, it's like drawing in perspective. You just get a sense of when you get it right, so you get this feedback mechanism. so let's see. Big eyebrows. And he's got this rather furrowed brow. Okay, so here we can just think about this cheekbone. So the cheekbone is coming round here and then up towards the ear. So that creates a few shifts, a few plane changes. That's more of a flat plane. So one of the good things about the construction method is it allows you to think of the head as a three-dimensional mass. So when I started drawing portraits when I was younger, you'd start with the eye, work your way through to the nose. And the trouble with that is everything tends to be very linear, outliney. So this helps you to conceive of what you're drawing as a three-dimensional shape. And the more convincing you can think of that comes across in your drawing. So let's put these eyes in. So the original little circle I drew, that gives you the sense of the ball of the eye, and then the eyelids go around that. And this eye is very starey, it's almost looking down at us. So I think this is what gives it the intensity. It's looking down. Okay. And then this one. So he has got this almost pained expression on his face. That eyebrow comes up. So you can see how I use the construction, and then basically the eye is drawn in a bit more of a contour, outliney way, but it's using the construction as a base. And that's what you want to do. It's almost like having different gears to drawing. First stage construction, second stage outline. So that all goes into shadow. I won't do too much tonal work, I'm just more trying to show you the construction method. So that comes in, that goes up there, and then pen's running out now. So you can just finish it off. So that comes behind the ear. So there it is. I'll just use a bit of black there. So it's like often when you do portraits, you get mostly there, but then sometimes it's like, well, something's not quite right. And that's why they're such great practice, because of our facial recognition. You don't have to do much wrong and your brain tells you. So there's something I'm not sure is, I've got the width of his head, so it's looking a bit thin, so I think maybe that measurement, and maybe the ear just goes out a bit further. As I say, with charcoal, that's all a lot easier to correct. So there we go, Andrew Loomis method, used on a portrait of Vincent Van Gogh. So I would definitely check out, there's some great videos on YouTube where you can learn the Loomis method in a lot more detail than I've presented here, but I found it useful, and I think it's one of those ones that you practice it, eventually you don't need it, it becomes second nature, but it's very useful for just helping you to think about the head. And the other one worth looking at is the Riley method. So, and learning both of them, they can help sort of reinforce each other, just give you different ways of thinking about the forms of the head. There we go. So there we go, Vincent Van Gogh, looking cheerful as always. And there we go, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks.